The red dust of Mars swirled outside the tall windows of the Stellar Academy for Gifted Children. Inside, 12-year-old Tom Reed pressed his hand against the glass, watching the twin moons climb into the night sky. The Academy, humanity's pride on Mars, stood as a shining beacon of chrome and glass against the rust-colored landscape. "Lights out in 5 minutes," called Miss Weber, her voice echoing through the dormitory halls. Tom turned away from the window, climbing into his bed as the room's smart lighting began to dim. Across the room, his roommate Jack was already half asleep, clutching his favorite old Earth teddy bear. The Academy housed 50 of Earth's brightest children, all between 8 and 14 years old. They were humanity's future scientists, engineers, and leaders, sent to Mars to study under the best teachers while helping with research on terraforming the Red Planet. At exactly midnight, the Academy sensors detected something unusual in orbit. The AI system flagged it as an anomaly, a ship that hadn't broadcast any identification codes. Before the warning could reach the security team, the vessel dropped its cloaking field. The ship was massive, its hull covered in red markings that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Without warning, smaller craft burst from its sides, dropping towards the Academy like angry hornets. The facility's defense systems activated immediately. Laser turrets emerged from hidden panels, tracking the incoming ships. But the energy beams simply bent around the alien vessels, deflected by shields far more advanced than anything humans had encountered before. Tom woke to blaring alarms and flashing red lights. Before he could reach for his emergency suit, the window exploded inward. The room's emergency force field snapped into place, keeping the precious atmosphere inside, but it couldn't stop the tall figures that stepped through. They were humanoid, but wrong somehow. Too tall, too smooth in their movements. Their armor seemed to drink in the light, making it hard to focus on them. One reached for Tom with a 3-fingered hand. "Security breach in Dormitory V," the AI announced, its calm voice at odds with the chaos. "Unknown hostile entities detected. Security teams responding. All students initiate lockdown procedures." But the aliens moved too fast. Their technology easily overrode the Academy's security measures. They seemed to know exactly where to go and what they wanted. In the hallway, Miss Weber tried to stop them. She stood in their path, armed with only a fire extinguisher. "You will not touch my students," she shouted, spraying the freezing foam at the intruders. Their shields flickered, but held. One alien raised what looked like a slim rod. There was no beam, no sound. Miss Weber simply crumpled to the floor, unconscious. Throughout the Academy, similar scenes played out. The security teams, armed with the best weapons Earth could provide, found themselves hopelessly outmatched. Their bullets were stopped by invisible fields. Their tasers had no effect. Even their experimental plasma weapons barely made the aliens pause. Tom felt strong hands grip him. He kicked and struggled, but it was like fighting against a statue. Around him, he could hear other children crying out. Through his terror, he tried to count the voices. Jack, Emma from the biology lab, young Tim from the computer science wing, and others. The aliens carried their struggling captives through the halls with mechanical efficiency. No words were spoken. No demands were made. They simply took what they wanted and headed back to their ships. As they lifted off, the Academy's long-range communications dish managed to send one burst transmission to Earth before the aliens destroyed it. The message was simple but would shake human civilization to its core. ALERT. Stellar Academy under attack. Unknown aliens. Multiple children taken. Need immediate assistance. They're taking our children. They're taking our... The transmission cut off as the dish exploded. In orbit, 12 terrified human children watched through viewports as Mars grew smaller and smaller. The alien ship's engines hummed, building up to something. There was a strange twisting sensation, a flash of light that shouldn't have had a color, and then Mars vanished as the ship jumped to hyperspace. Humanity's children were gone. and humanity's wrath was about to be awakened. Admiral James Black stood at the window of Earth Command Center, his weathered face reflecting in the glass. Behind him, dozens of screens showed emergency broadcasts from every nation on Earth. All carried the same message. Aliens had attacked Mars and taken human children. "Sir," called Lieutenant Rogers from his station, "the Mars colonial government just confirmed the final count. 12 children missing, all from the Stellar Academy. 23 staff injured, but no fatalities." The Admiral turned, his gray eyes hard as steel. The command center hummed with activity as personnel from every Earth nation worked together, their usual political differences forgotten in the face of this crisis. "Show me the alien ship's exit vector," he ordered. The main screen lit up with a trajectory path leading out of the solar system. The ship had vanished into what sensors could only describe as a spatial anomaly, humanity's first confirmed sighting of faster-than-light travel. "Mr. President," Admiral Black spoke into his comm unit, "I request immediate authorization to mobilize the entire UN Space Force." The response came instantly. "Granted. And James, I'm activating the Phoenix Protocol. The prototype ships are yours." The Admiral's eyes widened slightly. The Phoenix Protocol was humanity's best-kept secret, a fleet of warships built using reverse-engineered technology from a crashed alien scout ship found a decade ago. The public didn't even know they existed. "All stations," he called out, his voice carrying across the command center. "This is not a drill. I want every ship we have ready for immediate deployment. Contact our deep space outposts. If anyone has seen or heard anything about these attackers, I want to know." Within hours, information began flowing in. The attackers were identified as the Crimson Dominion, a powerful empire known for slave trading. They specifically targeted developing civilizations, stealing children to sell in the galactic slave markets. Admiral Black watched as images from deep space probes showed massive space stations where these markets operated, his fists clenched at his sides. Humanity might be new to the galactic stage, but they were far from helpless. "Sir," called Commander Taylor, "the prototype fleet is ready. All 6 ships reporting in." The Admiral nodded. These ships, hidden in underground bases across Earth, represented humanity's leap forward in military technology. Each one carried weapons and defenses reverse-engineered from alien tech, combined with human innovation. On the main screen, the ships rose from their secret hangars, sleek vessels that looked nothing like the bulky rockets the public was used to. Their hulls gleamed with a strange, almost liquid metal that could absorb energy weapons. Their engines hummed with power that humanity wasn't supposed to have for another 100 years. "All ships, form up at Luna Base," Admiral Black ordered. "I want every available combat vessel in the fleet ready to move within 6 hours." He turned to address the command center staff, his voice firm and clear. "I know what some of you are thinking. We're just one planet, new to space travel, going up against an empire that spans the stars. They think we're primitive, easy targets. They thought they could steal our children and face no consequences." The room fell silent as he continued. "But they don't know humanity. They don't understand what they've awakened. We split the atom before we had television. We reached the moon using computers less powerful than a modern watch. We've survived every challenge our world has thrown at us, and we've grown stronger each time." His eyes swept the room. "And now they've taken our children. They've crossed the one line that unites every human being, regardless of nation, race, or creed. We will find them. We will get our children back, and we will show the galaxy why you should never, ever harm humanity's young." The room erupted in determined cheers. On screens across Earth, the news showed humanity's fleet assembling near the moon, the largest gathering of ships in human history. The Crimson Dominion had made a terrible mistake. They were about to learn just how terrible. The vast darkness of space lit up as humanity's fleet exited Earth's solar system. 6 prototype ships led the way, their strange engines leaving trails of blue light. Behind them came 30 standard warships, each carrying Earth's best soldiers and most advanced weapons. On the bridge of the flagship Thunderchild Admiral Black studied the star map. Hundreds of possible routes spread out before them like a spider's web. The Crimson Dominion ship could have gone anywhere. "Contact ahead," called out the sensor officer. "Small trading vessel, appears to be damaged." The ship they found was barely larger than a shuttle. Its hull showed signs of weapons fire, and its crew, strange, blue-skinned aliens, were surprised to find humans so far from Earth. The Crimson Dominion, their captain asked when Admiral Black questioned them. "Yes, we know them. They raid our worlds too. Nobody fights them because they're too powerful." He paused, looking at the human fleet with all 6 of his eyes. "But you're different, aren't you?" The alien trader told them about the Grand Exchange, a massive space station where the Crimson Dominion sold their stolen goods. The mere thought of children being sold like property made the Admiral's blood boil. As the fleet pushed deeper into space, they encountered more alien species. Some were afraid to talk. Others offered help when they learned why the humans had come. Word spread quickly through the stars. The new species from the Spiral Arm was on the hunt, and they weren't stopping for anything. "Sir," Lieutenant Rogers reported one day, "we found someone interesting. Says his name is Rex. He's an information broker who claims to know where our children are being taken." Rex turned out to be a tall, thin alien whose skin seemed to shift colors like oil on water. He met with Admiral Black in a small trading post on the edge of known space. "Your children," Rex said, his voice sounding like rustling leaves, "are indeed bound for the Grand Exchange. But you should know, the station is the size of a small moon. It has defenses that have stopped entire fleets. The Crimson Dominion has ruled the slave trade for 1,000 years." Admiral Black smiled grimly. "Then it's time for their rule to end." The fleet's next jump brought them to a sector filled with wrecked ships. Here they found more allies, other species who had lost family to the slavers. They shared information about the Grand Exchange's defenses, its patrol routes, and its weak points. In the fleet's medical bay, doctors worked to treat some of the rescued slaves they'd found. The stories they told made the human crews more determined than ever. The Crimson Dominion didn't just take slaves. They broke entire civilizations by stealing their children. "Admiral," called Commander Taylor, "long-range sensors have picked up the exchange. It's massive." On the main screen, a structure appeared that seemed to defy belief. The Grand Exchange looked like a giant metal flower in space, its petals housing thousands of ships. Energy shields shimmed around it like soap bubbles, and weapon platforms floated in defensive formations. Admiral Black opened a channel to the fleet. "All ships, battle stations. What you see before you is the heart of an empire built on stealing children from their families. They think their defenses are unbeatable. They think their rule is absolute. They think we're just another primitive species to prey upon." He paused, watching as his ships moved into attack position. The prototype vessel's liquid metal hulls rippled with power. "Let's show them how wrong they are. For Earth. For Mars. For every species that's lost their children to these monsters. But most of all, for our 12 kids who are somewhere in that station, waiting for us to bring them home." The human fleet accelerated forward. Operation Thunderstrike was about to begin, and the galaxy was about to learn a very important lesson about humanity's determination to protect its own. The human fleet faced the massive space station, their ships tiny compared to its enormous size. The Grand Exchange's defense fleet scrambled to meet them, hundreds of red-marked ships forming a barrier between the humans and their target. "Last chance for diplomacy," Admiral Black muttered. He opened a communication channel to the station. "This is Admiral James Black of the United Nations Space Force. We demand the immediate return of all human children taken from the Mars Stellar Academy." The response came quickly. On the main screen, a tall figure appeared. Its skin was deep crimson, and its 4 eyes glowed with an inner light. "I am High Commander Dax of the Crimson Dominion. Your demands are denied. Your children are now our property, as is the right of the strong over the weak. Leave now, primitive ones, or be destroyed." The Admiral's face hardened. "Commander Taylor, is the fleet in position?" "Yes, sir. All ships report ready. Prototype vessels are charged and waiting for your signal." Admiral Black stood from his command chair. "Then let's show them what primitive looks like. Execute Operation Thunderstrike." The battle began with a flash of light that blinded every sensor in the area. The 6 prototype ships activated their special weapons, technology reversed engineered from the crashed alien ship. Their liquid metal hulls rippled and shifted, releasing waves of energy that no one in this part of space had seen before. The Crimson Dominion's frontline ships suddenly found their shields failing. Their weapon systems went dark. The energy-absorbing hulls of the human ships soaked up their desperate counterattacks like sponges. "Their defense grid is stuttering," Lieutenant Rogers reported with excitement. "The prototype's EMD waves are working. Their systems can't handle the feedback." The regular human warships surged forward, launching swarms of fighters. Unlike the clumsy rockets everyone expected from Earth, these fighters moved with impossible grace. Each one carried a miniature version of the prototype ship's technology. High Commander Dax's voice crackled over the comm again, this time with a note of panic. "Impossible. You can't have this technology. You're too young a species." "We're full of surprises," Admiral Black replied calmly. "All ships, Phase 2, breached their outer defenses." The prototype ships moved into a hexagon formation, energy arced between them, forming a web of power. When they fired together, their combined beam cut through the exchange's outer shields like they were paper. Alarms blared across the station as more shield layers fell. The Crimson Dominion ships tried to regroup, but Earth's fighters were everywhere, disrupting their formations. The liquid metal hulls of human ships absorbed or reflected every attack thrown at them. "Sir," Commander Taylor called out, "we're detecting massive power fluctuations in their main reactor. They're trying to overload it. If it blows, it'll take the whole station with it." Admiral Black's eyes narrowed. "They'd kill everyone on board, including the slaves, just to stop us. Reroute all power to the containment beam. We're not letting them take the easy way out." The prototype ships shifted again, their strange hulls flowing like quicksilver. They projected a containment field around the station's reactor core, forcing its power levels back to normal. On the main screen, they could see escape pods launching from the station. The Crimson Dominion's leaders were running away. "Let them go," the Admiral ordered. "Our priority is the station. All strike teams, prepare for boarding. Remember your training. Watch for traps. And most importantly, find our children." As the human soldiers prepared to board the Grand Exchange, news of the battle was already spreading across the galaxy. Humanity, the species everyone thought was too young and weak to matter, had just defeated the Crimson Dominion's strongest fortress. But the real fight was just beginning. Somewhere in that massive station, 12 scared children were waiting for rescue, and humanity wasn't leaving without them. Captain Laura Stone led her team through the dimly lit corridors of the Grand Exchange. Their Special Forces armor, designed to work with the prototype ship's technology, made them almost invisible. Behind her, 20 of Earth's best soldiers moved like shadows. "Life signs ahead," whispered Sergeant Miller, checking his scanner. "Multiple species. Some are children." They reached a large door marked with alien symbols. 2 Crimson Dominion guards stood watch, their red armor gleaming in the low light. Before the guards could react, Laura's team struck. Their weapons fired special stun pulses that dropped the aliens instantly. "Control room secured," Laura reported back to the Thunderchild *. "Beginning hack of their systems now." The station's computer systems were advanced, but Earth's tech experts had prepared for this. They'd studied the alien ship that had crashed years ago. Within minutes, they had access to the station's prisoner database. "Captain," called Private Jones, I found them. 8 of our kids are in holding block C, but the other 4 were already sold. They're not on the station. Laura's jaw tightened. We'll find them later. Right now, let's save the ones we can. Team 1 with me to block C. Team 2, sweep the other cells. Free everyone you find. The holding cells were worse than they'd imagined. Creatures from dozens of species were locked in small spaces, many of them young. Laura's team moved quickly, disabling locks and helping prisoners. Then they heard it. Human voices speaking English. "Hello. Is someone there?" It was Tom Reed's voice, the boy from Mars. "Please help." Laura's team rushed forward. They found the human children in a large cell, huddled together but unharmed. Young Tom stood at the front, trying to protect the others. "It's okay," Laura said, removing her helmet so they could see her human face. "We're from Earth. We're here to take you home." The children's eyes filled with tears of joy. As Laura's team helped them out, alarms suddenly blared through the station. "Captain," Sergeant Miller called out, "we've got company. Looks like their elite guards are heading this way." Laura made a quick decision. Form a defensive circle around the children. We're getting them out of here now. The firefight that followed was intense. Crimson Dominion troops poured into the corridor, but they weren't ready for Earth's new weapons. The Special Forces armor absorbed energy blasts, while their guns fired pulses that ignored alien shields. "Admiral," Laura called into her comm, "we have 8 of the children, requesting immediate evacuation." "Understood, Captain. Help is on the way." The station shook as human ships outside targeted specific sections, creating chaos and drawing guards away from the rescue team. Through it all, Laura's soldiers kept the children safe, moving steadily toward their escape point. "Look out!" Tom suddenly shouted. He'd spotted a Crimson Guard trying to flank them. Thanks to his warning, Laura's team took the threat down quickly. "Good eye, kid," Laura told him with a smile. "You've got the makings of a fine soldier." They reached the docking bay where their shuttle waited. As they loaded the children aboard, Laura looked at their faces. 8 saved, but 4 still out there somewhere. She made a silent promise. They wouldn't stop until all of them were home. The shuttle lifted off, protected by waves of human fighters. Behind them, the Grand Exchange was in chaos. Freed slaves were rising up against their captors. The mighty station that had stood for centuries as a symbol of the slave trade was falling. As they approached the Thunderchild asterisk, Tom looked out the window at the human fleet. "They came for us," he said softly. "They really came." "Of course we did," Laura replied, putting a hand on his shoulder. "We're human. We never leave our people behind." But the mission wasn't over. Somewhere out there, 4 more children needed their help, and humanity's wrath was far from satisfied. The data stolen from the Grand Exchange revealed where the 4 remaining children had been sold. Each had been taken to a different planet, scattered across Crimson Dominion space. Admiral Black split the human fleet into 4 strike teams, each led by a prototype ship. On the desert world of Chorus, Captain Laura Stone's team tracked the first child. Young Emma had been sold to a wealthy collector who gathered intelligent species. The collector's fortress seemed unbreakable, until the prototype ship Odyssey appeared in orbit. "Your defenses are impressive," Laura transmitted to the fortress, "but we've already broken the Grand Exchange. Surrender the human child, or we'll show you what else we can do." The collector had watched the news about the exchange's fall. He surrendered Emma without a fight. 1 child rescued, 3 to go. On the ocean planet Merix, the second team found Jack in an underwater research facility. The aliens there had been fascinated by how quickly he learned and wanted to study him. They didn't expect human ships to be able to work underwater. "Impossible," the facility director exclaimed as human Marines in special diving suits cut through their walls. "Your technology can't be this advanced." "You'd be surprised what humans can do when we're motivated," Commander Taylor replied as his team escorted Jack to safety. 2 down, 2 to go. The third child, Tim, had been sold to the Crimson Dominion's own military academy. They thought they could train him to fight for them, not realizing that human children were already smarter than they knew. When the prototype ship Phoenix appeared over their capital world, Tim had already caused 3 system crashes in their computers. He'd been trying to send a signal home. "That's my boy," Admiral Black said proudly when he heard this. The Crimson military, already weakened from their loss at the exchange, couldn't stop the rescue team. 3 down, 1 to go. The last child proved the hardest to reach. Lisa had been sold to a hidden research station studying different species adaptability. The station kept moving, jumping between systems to avoid detection. But they hadn't counted on Rex, the information broker who'd helped humanity before. His network of contacts tracked the station's jump patterns. More importantly, he discovered something that made Admiral Black's blood boil. The station was funded by corrupt officials from several alien governments. "They're all part of it," Rex explained. "The Crimson Dominion couldn't operate without help. Many powerful people earned money from the slave trade." The Admiral's response was simple. "Then they'll all face justice." The final raid brought together ships from multiple species, aliens who'd lost children of their own and had been inspired by humanity's actions. Together, they surrounded the research station. Lisa, like the other human children, had surprised her captors. She'd been secretly documenting everything they did, memorizing names and procedures. When the rescue team found her, she had enough evidence to expose hundreds of corrupt officials. "Smart girl," Captain Stone said as she led Lisa to safety. "You're going to help us clean up the galaxy." As news spread about the corrupt officials' involvement, governments across the galaxy began to fall. Species that had lived in fear of the Crimson Dominion for centuries finally fought back. The slave empire's power crumbled as its allies abandoned it. On the Thunderchild's Bridge, Admiral Black received the final confirmation. "All children accounted for, sir. Everyone is coming home." The Admiral looked at the stars through his view screen. Humanity had come into the galaxy seeking peace and knowledge. Instead, they'd found an evil that had to be destroyed. In doing so, they'd not only saved their own children, but helped free countless others. "Send word to Earth," he ordered. "Tell them it's time for Phase 2. The galaxy needs to change, and we're going to help make that happen." The human fleet regrouped, their mission accomplished but their work far from over. They had shown the galaxy that humanity protected its own, and now they would help protect others too. 10 years had passed since the rescue of the Mars Academy children. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Where once the Crimson Dominion ships brought fear, now Earth vessels patrolled the stars, protecting the weak from the strong. Tom Reed, no longer the scared 12-year-old from Mars, stood at the podium of the newly formed Galactic Protection Council. At 22, he had become humanity's youngest ambassador. The other 12 rescued children sat in the audience, each now playing their own role in shaping the new galaxy. 10 years ago, Tom began his speech. "We learned that the galaxy could be a dark place. But we also learned something more important, that good people working together can change anything." The council chamber was filled with representatives from hundreds of species. Some had once been enemies. Others had been slaves. Now they all worked together under new laws that Earth had helped create. In orbit above, Admiral Black watched the ceremony from the bridge of the Thunderchild *. The old ship had seen a lot of changes. Her hull now bore the marks of a decade of service, protecting the innocent and hunting down the last remnants of the slave trade. "Message from Earth Command, Sir," Lieutenant Rogers, now the commander herself, reported. "The last Crimson Dominion holdout has surrendered. It's officially over." The Admiral nodded, thinking back to that first desperate mission. "Send word to all ships. The hunt is finally done. Now the real work begins." On Earth and Mars, the changes were just as dramatic. The technology developed for the rescue mission had transformed human society. The prototype ship's energy systems now powered cities. Their medical equipment saved millions of lives. Humanity had grown far beyond what anyone expected. Emma, another of the rescued children, had become a leading scientist. Her experience had driven her to develop new ways to track ships through space. "No one should ever have to go through what we did," she often said. "And thanks to this technology, fewer people will." The former Grand Exchange had been transformed too. Where once slaves were sold, now stood the galaxy's largest free trade center. Ships from all species came to trade goods and ideas. At its heart stood a memorial. 12 empty chairs, remembering the event that had changed everything. Lisa's documented evidence had led to the arrest of over 2,000 corrupt officials across multiple governments. Jack had become a teacher, helping other rescued children heal from their experiences. Tim's computer skills had revolutionized galactic communication systems. Rex, the information broker who had helped humanity find their children, now ran the galaxy's largest missing persons network. His agents helped reunite families torn apart by the old slave empire. He often said that helping Earth had been the best decision he'd ever made. During the ceremony, Admiral Black received one more message. The final group of freed slaves had been returned to their homes. The last scars of the Crimson Dominion were being erased from the galaxy. 10 years ago, Tom continued his speech. Someone thought they could steal Earth's children and face no consequences. They thought we were weak because we were young. They thought we would give up. He gestured to the stars visible through the council chamber's windows. Instead, we showed the galaxy something it had never seen before, a species willing to fight not just for ourselves, but for everyone who needed help. We didn't just want revenge. We wanted change. The audience stood and applauded as Tom finished speaking. Among them were children from dozens of species, all free because humanity had decided to make a stand. Above the council chamber, Earth's fleet stood guard. Their ships were no longer alone. Vessels from many species now flew alongside them, all committed to protecting the innocent. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Never underestimate humanity's resolve. Never harm their children. And never, ever doubt their ability to change the universe when they set their minds to it. The end.